911, what is the address of your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I need to get a hold of Coast Guard or something like that. I'm stuck in the ocean, drifting out in the ocean. I cannot get nobody to answer.
Okay, is anybody injured on your boat?
No, ma'am. I'm standing on the jetty right. The motor's cut off on the boat. It's drifting out. He's in it. It's sinking.
Is anybody in the boat?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's in the boat?
Tyler, a buddy.
All right, hold on, honey. I'm going to bring in the Coast Guard. Don't hang up. All right, sir, excuse me. Don't hang up. It'll stop that in a minute. Christian, what's your telephone number you're calling me from? Stay on the line with me here, okay, honey? What's your name?
Christian Holden.
Are you on the North Jetty?
Yeah, I'm in the jetty, the Little River.
Yeah. Just stay on the line with me, sweetie. I'm going to get you some responders here. So the boat is starting to sink?
Yes, ma'am. It's filling up with water. I don't even see him no more. He's drifted out past the jetties in the ocean.
Was there anybody else on board besides him?
No, ma'am.
Do you know if the boat was where it was drifting? Was it going south?
Yeah,
or was it going?
If you're looking out towards the jetties, it's kind of going left. I don't know how to explain it. I just take off.
Okay, honey.
Out. Cut off.
And you said he was the only one, right? One person?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of boat is it?
It's an Excel, tiller handle Excel aluminum John boat.
And do you know if anybody was in the water? Did he know if he jumped out, or were you able to?
I was able to see him drift out, but I do not see him no more.
Did you know if that boat had any markers on it, or a name, or anything else on the like numbers?
It had orange stickers on it.
Had orange stickers on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he have a life jacket on board with him?
Yes, ma'am. He put it on.
Right. Other than your cell phone, do you have any other type of communications? Does he have any type of communications?
He's got a cell phone.
Do you know what his number is?
I do.
What's his number, honey?
Tyler.
Okay. And where did he put out from? Where he launched from?
The Spring Bridge at Little River. There's a boat coming out now.
And were there any other hazardous materials or anything involved on the boat?
We're hunting, so there is a firearm on the boat.
Okay. And nobody is sick or injured?
No, ma'am. Not that I know of. He hasn't. I cannot see.
So you were able to get out the boat and got on the jetty?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sweetie. I do have it entered in. We've got it on the way to you. Yeah, honey?
Yes, ma'am. I hear you. I'm trying to get this boat to come to me now, but they're not paying attention.
Yeah. Like I said, we're sending somebody to help you. Stay on the line. If it's safe to do so, just. Or do you have a life jacket with you in case you need it?
I do not.
All right. You do not? All right. You stay right there on the jetty, okay? All right. Listen, we've got some help coming to you. Is your phone fully charged?
It is. It's on 42%. Do I need to try to get a hold of him?
Well, you can, honey, but if you have to, you can call me immediately back. Just make sure you save your battery power on this phone, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Welcome back to Missing People in America. We are here with the aunt of Tyler Doyle, who went missing on January 26, 2023 in Little River, South Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about Tyler?
At the time, Tyler was 22 years old. He was happy, living a very good life, an all-around, genuinely good human being, kind-hearted, loving, fun to be around. He loved duck hunting. He loved racing. He was excited about, he was about to be a father. And then he went duck hunting on that day, and, we've never seen him since. So.
Can you tell me what about his disappearance and what led up to it?
So from what we understand, and we did verify with our cameras around my mom and dad's house and cameras at Tyler's house, was that he did leave. He left and came up to my mom and dad's house to get something from out their shed, and my dad saw him, and he said he had a sad look on his face. And the kid that was with him was not in the truck with him at the time. So I don't know if he had not arrived at Tyler's house yet or what. But anyway, eventually he arrives, and then they leave together. And then that's the last that we see on camera of Tyler leaving.
And was his intention to go duck hunting that day?
As far as we know, I mean, the season was almost over. So, as far as we know, we think that that's what the intentions were. He actually talked to a friend on the way there, and was telling his friend that that's what they were going to do.
And the person that he was with that day, who was that?
Well, from what I understand, they did not know each other that long. So Tyler was working for me at one point. I'm sorry, I need to move for a second.
You're okay.
He was working for me at one point, and because his wife was pregnant, she didn't like for him to work out of town, and he found another job, and it was with a supply plumbing company. And apparently he met this kid a couple of months after he had been on the job. So he had only known him briefly.
Okay. And
as far as we know, according to his wife and from what she's told me.
Has he ever been interviewed?
Not that I know of, no. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, he wouldn't even talk to us, to the family. So the very next morning, my husband, one of his friends that showed up to help search for Tyler, he said, I think I've got his dad's phone number. He said, why don't you give him a call and see if you can get him on the phone, because they were about to get on a big boat and they were going to go look for Tyler. So my husband's thought was, we need to find out exactly where he last laid eyes on Tyler. What part of where was he in the water when he last saw him? His father would not let him talk to my husband. So
was that ever confirmed that they were even on the water?
Well, I mean, his boat was out there. Was it confirmed that he was on the water? He made 2 phone calls to friends, but they were very short phone calls. I can tell you that when you're out there, the wind is blowing so loud. I mean, you might not even know who you're talking to. It could sound like that person. So, I mean, his cell phone pinged out there. as far as us knowing, having a visual, like a video or anything of that nature to prove that he was actually in that water, we don't have that.
And that was his boat that was found on the water, correct?
Yes. It was low tide, and I actually just recently did a video of my drone video. I just posted on our Facebook page for Tyler to kind of give people a perspective of, I imagine he would be about 5'6". He looks like a short kid to me. So I hovered over the exact location where he was rescued from and did a 360 view so people could get the point of view that we've seen. There's no way you lose sight of someone that quickly. Like, I mean, and then the life jacket thing, he said he saw him put it on, but they never found him. So to me, it doesn't make any sense. Just a lot of things don't add up.
So to revisit the story that was given to you was that they went on the water, and then what happened?
They went on the, I'm sorry, moving
You're
around.
okay.
You mean given to me by who? DNR or?
The individual that was with him.
Well, the only thing that I ever got to say to him was when I was coming up the ramp after we saw another rescue boat coming. So we were told that Tyler was already safe and he was in an ambulance. So we drove to a different landing where they said he was at in an ambulance. So we would get inside there, and it wasn't him. It was Christian Holden. So they had not found Tyler yet. And of course, we were hysterical. Me and my brother ran down the ramp, and we stood there waiting to watch, because I was like, there's no way that they're not going to find him. He's tough. He's strong. He's going to make his way to the shore. I mean, you can see in the drone video at low tide, which is, I planned that video exactly at the same tide and at the same time of day that they were there. In that video, you can see there are 4 different beaches that he could have made it to. His boat, the water was so shallow at that time of day that his boat got stuck on a shoal. He could have hung on to that. He had 2 sets of jetty rocks to get to hold on to. He was a wonderful swimmer. He knew what to do if he got caught in the rip tide. He knew to let himself go, not trying to fight it. His dad taught him that at a very young age. So we just knew that Tyler was going to make his way back. They were going to bring him. But as we were standing there, we see the red lights coming, and I was like, oh my gosh, that they've got him. But it was Cito with his boat, and they just kept driving by. And I let go of my brother's hand, and I ran up that ramp, and I went straight. By that time, Christian Holden was in the car with his girlfriend, and I went straight up to him, and I said, I want to know who you are and why you're here, and where is my nephew? That's all I said to him. And he said, I'll tell you like I told everybody else, in a very calm voice. He dropped me off on the rocks. There was problems with the boat motor, and I lost sight of him. And that's all he said. And we weren't about to stick around and just wait there. They told us there was a police officer coming to give us information, but we didn't. We immediately got in our vehicles and took off to Sunset Beach. We tried to run down to get to the rocks, and we didn't realize how far of a walk. That's a 45-minute walk. So we turned around and got in our vehicles, and we just took off down the beach as fast as we could go to get to the north side of the jetty. And I was scared to death because I thought we were going to get in a lot of trouble for that. But when we got there, we were greeted with a bunch of kind police officers who told us that if we wanted to stay there all night searching, we could. But we ran up and down the beach, got out. After we got out of the car, we were screaming his name because they told us that the way the wind was blowing and the tide was moving, that it was heading up north. So if anything, he was going to come up on that north side. And we just screamed his name and stayed out there as long as we could until I can't even remember what time it was when we left, but we went back to where his truck was at the other landing. And me and my mom slept there all night long, waiting to hear back. I called Coast Guard several times that night. It was hard. I don't think I went to sleep for like 48 hours. I was wearing the same clothes for almost 3 days. But that wasn't on my mind at the time. We just knew they were going to find him, and we just had to wait. We didn't want to leave.
How long were police out searching?
Well, the Coast Guard searched for a little over 48 hours, I believe. They gave Tyler a little bit more time. They have an algorithm, I guess, that they put the age and weight and the weather conditions into, and they took in consideration that what we told them about Tyler. I mean, he is a very strong man, like a big, tough, strong dude. He drove a race car that, adrenaline was his thing. So if he got put into a situation like that, I could just see him being just Superman. He was going to make it, And so they gave him extra time based off of what the family told them. And so after that, those 2 days, they took us to a police station that was nearby. And sat us down in a room and told us that they had searched however many miles, and that at this point it was a recovery, not a rescue anymore. So, but after that, we never stopped looking. Friends and family never stopped looking. DNR stayed out for a while to continue searching, but I did notice that, there might be one boat out there during the day, and at one point they flagged us down asking us had we seen a boat come by that was leaking fuel. And I was thinking, what? I thought they were supposed to be looking for my nephew.
Right.
After that, I was telling you about, we passed them and that took place, which was so confusing. A lot of friends still stayed to search. We stayed there for 8 weeks. Wings of Hope was there for, I don't know how many weeks, but I know at least 4 or 5 weeks. The last people there were me and my brother. After 8 weeks, it was me and him every day for probably a month on a jet ski that we blew up. And it was it was a brand new jet ski, and we blew it up. And then we took my old one and we blew it up and got them fixed. Then we resorted to bicycles. We took bikes from Sunset Beach to the jetties every day, and I bought an underwater drone, took it down there looking. We didn't know what else to do. I mean, we were told that one day his bones were going to wash ashore, and even though we were told that, I still could not get a missing persons report filed on Tyler, no matter how many times I begged. Literally, I had to get a lawyer involved to get them to do that.
How long did it take you to get him reported missing?
Okay, so from January 26th, I started making phone calls like 2 days later, because it dawned on me, it was 3 or 4 days later, because I had finally got to go home and take a shower. And as I was getting ready, I started thinking about all the different agencies that were involved, like in the rescue and the search and all that. And I thought, surely someone has by now put him in a missing persons database. And so I started calling the North Myrtle Beach Fire and Rescue. They had not done that. I started calling Horry County Police. They had not done that. Every agency involved had not done that. And DNR, I came to them, I said, well, they're all telling me that that's your job, that you are the lead investigator. And they said, Tyler's not missing, he's dead. That's what they told us. And I said, but you don't have a body. How can you say that? You can't tell us that he's dead and you're not going to put a missing person. And also say at the same time that one day his bones are going to wash ashore. Well, if they do, then how are you going to know who they belong to?
Right.
If it's not put into NamUs. So it was and then I think somewhere around April is when I finally was able to see that we created his own NamUs profile. And Catherine Pope with NamUs told us that all he had to do, Ronnie Floyd had to do, was just sign off on it. That's it. So they're not educated whatsoever in missing people. Like, they should not be involved in anything to do with a missing person. She told me that she had, had some run-ins with them in the past with that. So when this is all said and done, that is something I really want to advocate for, that they are not, there should be a policy set in place within that agency. I mean, they should, I'll tell you the difference between North and South Carolina. So Jake was the police officer that I met at the very end of the jetties the night that Tyler went missing. I didn't realize that at the time who he was. He also was the man who came out and got the waiters from us when we found them. So I had to share my location with him that day when we found Tyler's waiters. So we stayed in touch, and every single time I called him, he was so kind to me. He would answer my questions, because if we heard on the news that somebody was found on the beach anywhere, I call him, and he would assure me if it was Tyler or not. Well, he told me that North Carolina, you don't have to worry about begging for a missing persons report, even if they go missing in the water, that they automatically do that. That's a law in the state of North Carolina. And I thought, well, how unfortunate, his boat was found on the northern side. I wish with all my heart that they would have been able to take over the investigation, because I know things would have went differently. Yeah. But
3 months to get a missing persons report, and all of those agencies involved, and still couldn't get one made.
Right. And I recorded every single phone call I made to all of them, twice to Horry County Police, once to North Myrtle Beach Fire and Rescue, and countless times to DNR. I recorded them all.
Wow.
Because I just knew from the get-go, like, something's not right,
Mm-hmm.
You've got a missing person who was with someone who had a firearm. They treat that so differently on water. I mean, if they were on land, maybe it would have been a whole different story. I mean, I'm not sure. Dealing with DNR, who knows? But,
right.
You don't let somebody who was with somebody who's now missing just walk away. Like, they let him leave. They did no invest. They didn't take his clothing. They didn't interrogate him. Nothing. It was grossly mishandled by DNR.
How long after you were aware and that you had spoke to him did they allow him to leave?
See, that I do not know, because as soon as I found out that Tyler was not, that was Tyler's boat and not him, we left. We were told by Ronnie Floyd that they had to threaten him to send a police officer out to get him to come back out and reenact what took place out there. And he wouldn't come to the landing where we were at. He wanted to be taken out from a totally different landing, so he didn't have to see us. I mean, I watch a lot of crime stuff, and I understand that not everybody is the same, but to not want to talk to the family, to not want to help, the fact that his dad would not put him on the phone with my husband, who is my nephew's, that's my husband's nephew too. We were just looking for help. I mean, that to me is unbelievable.
Yeah, especially if you were dropped off and don't know what happened. Clearing your name should be on the top of your priority list.
Right.
And you stated that he had a firearm on him.
He did have a firearm. It was actually, thank God, Cito, when they approached to go get Tyler's boat, they immediately took pictures. They started taking pictures, and they snapped a picture of him on the rocks, and his gun was sitting right there on it was propped up right on the rocks. And I have all those pictures, and I was thankful that they shared those with me. And they were actually live photos, so whenever you hold your finger down on them, you could see that the water was not that rough.
And it was said that there was problems with the boat. Do you
Yes.
know if the boat was ever investigated for mechanical failures as well as anything, fingerprints or anything of the sort?
There was no fingerprints done. I do know that Ronnie Floyd himself went out and he investigated the boat, and Cito was there. The owner's wife, I do believe, was present for that, and she described it as basically a joke. I mean, gas line was torn because he said it was dry rotted, and that was what we were told by him. The motor cut off because it wasn't getting any gas because the line was rotted, dry rotted.
And this is his boat, and he had this boat for quite some time, correct?
Yes. I mean, not quite some time. He's had the same boat several times. Like when racing time would come, he would sell the boat so he could have the money to put into his race car. But when it got duck hunting season coming nearby, he wanted to buy another boat. So he had this same boat before. But this particular boat, I believe we did the paperwork for it sometime in November because I co-signed for him to get it. He had no credit because he was young. And I thought, what a wonderful way for me to help him. I'll co-sign for this. I can see that he'll make the payments. It'll give him credit. He has a child on the way. So he needed that. And that was something I wanted to do for him. But I deeply regret doing that to this day. And I always will feel like I made a bad decision when I did that. And my mom and dad tell me not to be upset about it, but God, if I could go back, I would have not done that. Because if that's what took his life, then I feel like, I feel guilty that I should have said, you don't need a boat right now. But
It sounds like if Tyler didn't have that boat, he'd have a different boat.
that's exactly what my parents told me. He would have found a way to get it with or without you.
Yeah.
So, but he has had a lot of boats, and he was very familiar. I mean, this kid could do anything. Like, I just don't see him taking his boat out knowing that there was something wrong with the hose. I mean, and it's crazy because when I finally got into his iCloud, I was so afraid that somebody was going to try and erase his photos off of his phone. Was never recovered. So I did everything I could to get into my nephew's phone. My brother helped me, and it was by the grace of God that my brother actually had his password to his iCloud because he had given it to his dad. And we were able to get in there and change the contact information so nobody else could take that away from us. And we had all his pictures. So the day before he went on this hunting trip, he had took 360 photos of his boat. And I could only imagine that he was going to try and sell it because the baby was going to be due in April. I mean, I couldn't think of any other reason why he would be doing that. So we were able to use that to prove that, like, hey, I mean, the line looks pretty good here in these pictures.
So you could see the line in that picture?
Yeah, we could. I mean, even if it had a little bit of dry rot on it, to tear one of those things is very difficult. I mean, we put it to the test ourselves. It's hard to do.
And even with engine failure due to that line, do you believe that Tyler is mechanically inclined enough to be able to either figure it out or get to safety?
Yeah, he would have not cared one bit about jumping out of that boat and losing everything in it, because he knows how we are. He knows his family would. He had insurance on it, for one. He had a new gun that he had just bought, but he would not have cared about that. He would have fought for his life. He would have let everything go and made it to safety. I know he would have, unless something prevented him from doing that. And in the 911 call, Christian Holden clearly says he says, I saw the lady. She asked him, do you know if he's wearing a life jacket? And he said, yes, ma'am, I saw him put it on. So where is he? It just doesn't make sense. Is he lying about him having a life jacket on? I mean, when I listened to that phone call, it to me sounds like he had read over a script about 100 times and he was just reading it right off. I mean, no emotion whatsoever. I would have been hysterical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it was a stranger.
Now, during that 911 call, when he called it in, did he call it in as a missing person, an accident?
From what I can remember listening to the call, he said he needed help, that his buddy's boat was sinking and the motor wasn't working. And he said he had tried to get a hold of him or whatever, and I'd have to listen to it again, but I mean, I've listened to it 100 times, but it's hard to explain the very beginning of the call because he says he's in the boat and it's sinking.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I need to get a hold of Coast Guard or something like that. I'm stuck in the ocean, drifting out in the ocean. I cannot get nobody to answer.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I need to get a hold of Coast Guard or something like that. I'm stuck in the ocean, drifting out in the ocean. I cannot get nobody to answer.
Okay, is anybody injured on your boat?
No, ma'am. I'm standing on the jetty right. The motor cut off on the boat. It's drifting out. He's in it. It's sinking.
Is anybody in the boat?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's in the boat?
Tyler, a buddy.
All right, hold on, honey. I'm gonna bring in the Coast Guard. Don't hang up.
Which I thought was very strange. I'm like, wait a second. I had to keep rewinding it, and he's saying, I mean, he's the one that's in the boat, and then he turns around and says that he's on the rocks. So I mean, could he have been nervous and that just kind of came out? Maybe. I don't know, because I don't know him. But from the 911 call, I just get this feeling like, it's just so calm and almost like he just didn't have the emotion that I would have. And I know we're not all the same, but to me, I would have been panicking.
Right, right. Especially if you were seeing it with your own eyes, not even just hearing it. But
yeah.
So he stated that he saw Tyler put his life jacket on. Did he happen to say if he put it on at the beginning of the trip or if he put it on when the engine failed?
From what I don't remember if he, I'm trying to think of the call now. If we could play it, you could hear it, but he saw him put it home on, I mean, that's a good question that you just asked. I mean, did he put it on when he just got in the boat, when they just got in? Or was he just putting it on whenever the boat stopped working?
Right.
We don't know. I do know one of his phone calls to his two friends, they told him to take the waders off and put his life jacket on. And he said, I've got my effing life jacket on. That is exactly how it was described to us. The phone call went.
And when was Was that phone call when they were on the water?
Apparently, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you also stated that you found his waders. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so about 5 days into the search, I decided to go out with my aunt, my cousin Shane, and my cousin Marie. The aunt is my mom's sister. It was the calmest that the water had been since we had been there. And I was like, okay, I can go because I'm easy to get seasick. And that's what I was afraid of. And the water was like glass. And we left out that morning, and we kind of like, I would describe it mowing grass. So we went from Myrtle Beach to North Carolina just like this, over and over, all day long. And we noticed a boat that we kept running into a boat that had 3 guys on it. I had no idea who they were, but I don't know if you've heard the story about my Ray-Ban sunshades, but I bought those in November before we were going to go on a fishing trip with our kids in the Keys. And they are where you can just hit the button on the side and record. And I thought, I don't want to have to put my pole down and film them fishing. And they come across my Facebook feed. And I was like, oh my God, I have to have these. Well, when this happened to Tyler, I had them with me every day. And I recorded as long as the battery was lasting. And when it went dead, I plugged them back in, put them back on. I recorded everything. People just walking around, DNR, what they were saying, everything. So I had them with me that day. It was getting towards the sun was starting to set that day. I was freezing. I looked at my aunt and I said, I think we need to go back. I said, I am so cold. And she said, you tell him. And I said, no, you tell him. Talking about my cousin Shane, because he was so determined. Like that day, the water was flat. We're going to find something. And so finally I was like, can we go? And I said, I'm freezing. And he was like, just give me about 5 more minutes. And as we were going back towards North Carolina, he starts to slow down. And my cousin Marie says to me, go to the back of the boat. And I did, because I would have literally died had I seen him floating in that water. It probably would have destroyed my life in so many ways. I could not have handled that. So I did, and I turned my back, and I remember her saying, it's not him. And then I got up and I hit the button, and she said, it's his waders, and she's crying, and I got it all on video. And you'll hear in the video, my other aunt says, or not mother, is confusing. So Marie is my cousin, but that is, I call her my aunt because she's like an aunt. But anyway, that's when you hear my Aunt Ann say, mark this space. And I immediately called 911. And we stayed out there. And then that mysterious boat with those 3 guys, here they come creeping up right behind us again. It's like they were watching us.
Mm-hmm.
One of the times that we encountered them, they pretended like they knew. They knew my cousin Shane, and they said they were out there searching for Tyler, but I got them on video fishing. And I only videoed them because there was a pelican in the water, and he was just kind of, chilling out around both of us. And I thought it was neat. But then I also looked back on it and I thought, that's strange. They were out there fishing, but they also told us they were looking for Tyler. And then they come up behind us as we just find the waders, and they just sit there watching. One of them was even filming it with their phone. Well, I'm telling you all this because it turns out later on, Tyler's wife was involved with the boy that owned that boat.
They didn't know anything. Hold on, I need my flashlight. It'd be really different if they didn't know about us. Yeah. But he hides, so I know that we both agreed that it's hid, whatever.
And he also is one of the ones who came to Tyler's home and helped unload everything out of his house. And the other guy on the boat with him took Tyler's truck that did not belong to Lakeland. My mother and father paid for that truck. So that guy that was on that boat with him took Tyler's truck and drove it out of his yard, and we've never seen it since. Or any of his clothes, his shoes, nothing. She took everything and left. So when you look back on all of this stuff and you see all of it put at the time, you know, you don't know what you've never been through anything like this. So what do you think? You know, you don't have anything to think of, but where's Tyler? But in hindsight, when you go back and you look at everything, it just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just something's not right. And I've fought as hard as I can. I've done everything I can do. I've harassed. I know the DNR hates me. They do have a new DNR agent for Tyler, and he's very sweet. He's a nice man. And he told me, he said, I never want to get on your bad side. He said, please give me a chance. And I said, I promise you I will. So SLED also asked us to give them a chance. And I said, of course, we want to give you all anything you need to do it, please, so we can have answers. And, you know, it's 15 months later, and we still don't have answers. We've met with SLED privately, you know, me and my mom have, just to give them some more information. And I understand they can't tell us anything, but at this point, I'm thinking something's going on.
Right.
If it was an accident, that would be real easy to prove. Wouldn't take 15 months.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, to your knowledge, do you know when Tyler's wife got involved with these individuals on the boat?
You know, I don't know. Truly, I don't. I mean, I couldn't give you a date. We do know for a fact, though, because he did tell my mom that they were involved. And so my mom also owns a produce stand on 378 in Conway, which has cameras inside of it, all inside of it. And the day that he came there, telling my mom that, it's all on video. So we know for a fact that they were in a relationship. And, you know, he's missing. He's not considered dead. So, you know, I understand she needed to move on with her life, but it just seemed like it was a little bit quick.
Yeah.
You know, little inappropriate, way too quick for me. I mean, when I was pregnant with my son and my husband went missing, I don't think that I would ever, it would be a very, very long time. I mean, I'd be distraught. I would cling to my husband's family because that would be what I would have left of him, you know.
100%.
We don't understand what's going on or why, but you know, it is what it is. She moved
How long
on.
after Tyler went missing did he come into the produce stand and tell your mom that?
That would be something I'd get back with you about,
That's
because
fine.
I have it recorded and I will know the exact date and time. And you know what? My mom even gave him a hug, and she was crying in the video, and she told him, because she had heard good things about him, you know, that he was a good guy. He has a decent job and has a good family. And she cried and she gave him a hug, and she said, you know, I hate that she moved on so quickly, but at least it's with somebody that's a good person like you, you know. So it's not like we were totally, it would be hard for us to watch that go on. But we never got upset with Lakeland about it. She moved out on her own because that's what she wanted.
Right.
So.
And do you know if there is any ties with him and the boy that was on the boat with Tyler that day?
I don't know for sure for a fact. I don't know if they're related or not. I do know that according to the phone records, the last phone call that he made that he gave to DNR is actually her current boyfriend, which I think is very strange. I mean, all of this stuff is just like, I mean, I don't believe in that many coincidences. It just,
Right.
it doesn't add up. But to answer that question, I really do not know if they're related or not.
Or friends or
Or
anything. I mean,
I do believe that they're friends. They would have to be friends for them to all, get together like they do, and the phone calls that were made and stuff. So they knew each other for sure, and they
right.
live in the same town. So
Right.
yeah.
And just to clarify, he did call her current boyfriend the day that him and Tyler were together.
Christian Holden's last phone call, no, not, yeah, her current boyfriend, his last phone call that he submitted to DNR that's in the FOIA information is to her current boyfriend, Clay Strickland,
Just
which
wanted to
is,
clarify
yeah,
because that's pretty interesting.
that is very, I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't even, that's something later on we were like looking at, and I wasn't the one who found it. I got a phone call and they were like, did you take a look at those records again? And I'm like, okay. And I look and I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
it just, I was shocked. That's
Yeah.
just
Just
weird.
something that you don't think of
No,
happening. Yeah. So Tyler's truck has still not been recovered.
no, we don't know where his truck is at. No. I did go to SLED about this because I wanted to make sure that the taxes were going to get paid every year. So I went on there to go pay them, and his truck didn't show up underneath the tax information anymore. And I got so upset, and I called my mom, because you would have to understand that my mom and dad, everything that child ever needed, they paid for it. He lived with them for a long, long time. I go back through her emails and I see where, she was the one emailing the teachers. She was the one who paid for everything to do with school. They bought his first truck. Every piece of clothing that child had, they bought it. So when I go there and I see that the taxes are not even showing up to be paid, I'm like, oh my God, has she sold his truck? Or, I mean, so we went to them and asked them, could they find out either she turned the tags in on the truck so she didn't have to pay the taxes, or did she sell it? Because she can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
He is not dead. And there's also another vehicle that he bought her a car right before he went missing. It doesn't show up. So if that car's been sold, I mean, I wanted to know from SLED, that's not okay. That has to go to probate court. And at this point, we're looking at 5 more years before she can do that. And we had the VIN number to the truck and everything, so they have all that information. But I'd love to know where it's at and if she sold it. I mean, I'm pretty sure she probably sold that car, and I hope that she doesn't get herself in trouble. That's the last thing I want for Paisley's mom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not okay to take stuff like that and do that. I mean, who does that? That's just crazy.
Right.
But we don't know. That's just speculating, and so I don't know where the truck is at.
Now, how was their relationship or their marriage before he disappeared?
Well, at first it was great. Towards the end, before he disappeared, it was very hard for him to he got in trouble at work a lot because she wouldn't stop calling him. And it even happened when he worked for me, and to the point where I had to tell her, don't call him. He's trying to work. Call me instead. I was close with Lakeland. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we talked several times a day, very, very close with her. So she understood. And so she started calling me, because Tyler was having to leave work to go take her to the hospital. There was always kind of something wrong with her and going on with her. So then I took that role over for him so he could work. And so, I mean, then it got to a point where if they had an argument, she would try to get to me first before he could tell his side of the story, type thing. But I would take both sides and try to mediate and, say, look, let's try and figure this out. Everybody who's been married their first year of marriage, especially when you gonna have a baby, it's tough.
Right.
You know,
Right.
me and my husband didn't have the first. I got pregnant as soon as I got married. I know how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was trying to. I could relate to what they were going through, but at the very end, it got really bad, and the arguing to the point where Tyler he wouldn't tell us what was going on. He was the type of person, he could fix things. He knew he could fix it. He did not want us to think negative of her. So he would never say anything bad about her. But he just told me, he said, I don't know how much longer I can take this. And he asked me if something went bad. He said, do you think that you and Nana could help me make sure that I get my baby, that I get custody of my baby? And I was like, oh gosh, something must be really bad. But he never told me. And I don't know if he told a friend. I doubt he would, because he always thought that he loved her to death. Like, he truly loved her so much. I believe in my heart he thought he could fix whatever was going on. And that's why he didn't tell us. But I do know that a friend called him on the way to that trip the very day he went missing. He is a very close friend of ours and the family, one of Tyler's very best friends. And Tyler was telling him on the way there to the trip that him and Lakeland had an argument on the phone. And the last words that she said to him was, fuck you, Tyler, and hung up on him. And then she never tried to call her husband after he went missing, not once. Not a single time. I would have been blowing my husband's phone up. But, I guess we're not all the same. But still.
Did she ever help with any searching?
She went out on a boat one time, and she shouldn't have went out on a boat because she was supposed to be on bed rest. And we were upset that she was on the boat. But we can't control a grown adult woman. She did. So she did go out once. She would update things on Facebook, but I guess the thing that kind of struck me and my mom as not okay was the very next morning. It had not even been 24 hours, and they had already started a GoFundMe for her. I mean, that was something we were not okay with. And I mean, she should have put her name on it solely at the beginning. Later on, my mom told her to get our names off of that because we did not want money. We did not need that. We wanted people to come help look for Tyler. And she would not allow us to talk to the news. She wouldn't go on the news. I had my best friend come dress up. I said she'll talk, let her talk for us, because we need all the exposure we can get out here so we can get more people to look for Tyler. And even if people couldn't come, they could watch the cameras, the beach cams, for us. She would not even allow her to do an interview with the news. They did not want it. So she's the next of kin. And we had to do what she said, unfortunately, when it came to that. At that time, when it was all said and done later on, I didn't care anymore what she said. I became his advocate, and it's going to stay that way.
Absolutely. He deserves a voice, that's for sure.
He does. And they were not going to do it. She wasn't going to do it. So, and even in the SLED meeting, I made sure that I asked, for her to give her verbal permission to let me lead this, because I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew in my heart, I didn't say it to her, but I knew in my heart she wasn't going to be willing to do it. And she did. She said, yes, that's okay. And thank God.
Do you talk to her at all now?
We have not talked to her since the day that she moved out. And I'll tell you about that story. My mom was so blindsided. My mom was supposed to keep the baby that day, and she was so excited. Lakeland knew my mom wasn't going to get off work until probably 8 o'clock. But because my mom was so excited and she was ready to see the baby, she wrapped it up real quick. So I think she might have got home around 4. I'd have to ask her again. But she pulled into the driveway that leads to her house, which Tyler's house is like here. She has to drive by his house to get to her house. So she's pulling in Tyler's driveway, and there's all these vehicles in the yard with trailers with all the furniture, all his clothes, all being loaded up. She had no idea what was going on. She walks in and she goes, Lakeland, what's going on here? And she said, I'm moving. So she was trying to hurry because she knew my mom would be coming at 8 o'clock, and by that time she would already be gone. So my mom walked in the house. The baby was in the car seat and she was crying, and she went to pick her up and she said, don't touch her. My mom is in total shock at this point. She's all by herself sitting there. Stuff's being loaded up that does not even belong, not even to Tyler, because that house they lived in was my mom and dad's house. My mom and dad owned it. They let them live there for free. There was stuff that was left in that house that belonged to my father. And then they start taking it and boxing it up. My mom's like, wait a second. That is not Tyler's. That belongs to my husband. Well, Lakeland's brother proceeds to look at my mother in her own home, and he tells her, and excuse my language, but this is what he said. He said, we will take the fucking appliances out of this house if we want to. Yeah. And then he called 911 on my mom, and all she was doing was sitting at the bar, just sitting, watching what they were doing. The police came. They told her that she had to leave out of the house. And she said, well, how far do you want me to go? Because I own the property beside this house. I own as far back as you can see to those trees. And I own 67 acres going this way. So how far back do you need me to get off of my own property?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, they were rolling my dad's safe, those big, tall gun safes. The boy, Dylan, was rolling it out on a dolly, taking it and putting it on the back of his truck. And that belonged to my father. And so my mom is telling the police, look, that is my husband's safe. They are not allowed to take that. That does not belong to her. So the cops are like, I guess they're having a discussion. Meanwhile, she's trying to say she has the code to the safe. Lakeland does. They can't get in it. He starts trying to pry it open with something and makes damage to the safe. Anyway, they finally get into it. She gets everything out of it, everything. And my mom did get to keep the safe. Turns out a lot of the guns that she took that day were not even in Tyler's name. They were in my brother's name. So we had to go to magistrate to get that taken care of. It was settled out of court, and she was told, listen, you don't take firearms that are not in your name, that don't belong to you. You better take them back. And so she did. The damages that were done to the house, because she would leave the dog in the house for days at a time by itself, and he peed and pooped everywhere. So the flooring had to be redone. The molding had to be redone. So my mom did take her to court for that, and she had an attorney and requested a jury trial. So we ended up settling out of court, and this is the only thing that we have of Tyler, that she was willing to. She paid $1,500 to get the floors fixed, and she gave us 3 ducks. That's it.
Wow.
Out of, I don't know, 15 or 20 that he had, mind you, that my mother and father paid for to be mounted. That's all we got. That's it.
Wow. So no family has any relationship with his daughter either.
No, she doesn't. Well, Tyler's birth mother does see her. She gets to see her. So, which I think is so ironic, because prior to Tyler going missing, she hated Tyler's mother for some unknown reason. I don't even know why she didn't like his mom. Like, even though my brother and Tyler's mom are divorced, like, we don't hate Michelle, I mean, so I could never understand why she talked so bad about her. But yeah, now that that's all she's got, they do have a relationship with the baby, and Tyler's brother does too. And I wish I did, but I can't deal with that toxic type of behavior. And it's just, one day Paisley will grow up. She'll want to know what her daddy was like and his family, because
I am so sorry, but I am so thankful that you are there for her as well,
yeah,
because you're a heck of an advocate.
I'm trying. It's hard. It's been tough. I have my own family.
Yeah.
And I have 2 kids, and thank God my children are thriving. They're doing well. But I had to do this for Tyler. I had to. He deserves he deserves to have a voice from this family. And as long as we're here, he will have that.
Absolutely. Now, do you have a page set up for him so that people can follow along?
Yes. His page is, I'll pull it up here so you can. There's a bunch of pages, so you have to be careful which one you go to, but this is the one that I have set up with a bunch of wonderful, wonderful women and men who have been an advocate for Tyler and helped me through so much. It just so happens where he went missing. I don't know if you know Dutch's discussions, but she lives right beside the landing, and she happened to years ago fall off a boat in the same exact place, and she wasn't found for hours. She was floating out for hours in the freezing cold water and was found by the casino boats.
Wow.
And so she happened to live right there, and she could see what was going on. And so me and her have become like sisters, because she can relate to this so much, and she does a lot for missing people as well. Like, she makes flyers and she does the YouTube channels for people that she doesn't even know. But this really hit home to her because she's been out there. She fell in that water.
Literally, she's been out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And rescued because the casino boat was coming back in, and the spotlights were so bright off of the boat, they saw her floating in the water, and she survived that. So think about that. I mean, and she is a tiny little thing. Tyler should have been found.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have so many questions. It just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
And 15 months goes by, and I have hope. And I've had people say terrible things like, "Oh my God, you guys just want to know that somebody did something awful to him." Well, I would rather know that he didn't drown. I mean, it's hard to explain that because it sounds so awful.
Mm.
But to think of my loved one drowning, I can't think of a worse way to die.
Right.
I mean, I would rather be shot in the head instantly dying than to know that I had to drown myself. And I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, we're searching for answers, and we're not going to accept the fact that they say he drowned because his body never came up. It should have. Plus, he had on a life jacket. And the other factor was he was so close to so many shores. I'll have to send you my drone video if you haven't seen it, but you can go on that page and see it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll hop on and go look at it for sure.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything besides what you have said that you would like the community to know or to do to help you?
I would like for anyone who does go to the beach near where Tyler went missing, just because of what they told us, if you see anything, please just don't disregard it. Just take it. Trust me, the cops will not be upset if you call and say, "Look, this looks like a bone." I mean, they will gladly come out and get it from you and test it. That would be the one thing that I want people to know. And tell your friends that too. Tell everybody you know that, because there are a lot of missing people that families never get closure. And, you know, if a bone washes ashore and they just take it home and do whatever with it, that's that one chance that that family could have had to know if that was their loved one. Other than that, that was one big thing. Just
Huge.
keep praying for us. Keep Tyler's name out there. You know, I would encourage them to call DNR if you're very passionate about this case. And there are a lot of people who've never met him that are. They fell in love with him from the videos and just by that smile. You could just look at his smile. It just warms your heart. I would encourage them, you know, make phone calls to DNR, make phone calls to SLED, call your local congressman, ask them what they're doing to get justice for our family, justice for Tyler, because the more noise we make, the more there's a chance that they're gonna do something. But if we give up, they'll let go. That's what they were gonna do. I mean, I have
Absolutely.
another friend that has had to fight for her brother, who he passed away after Tyler, and I just found out today that through her hard work, his case is being reopened. And I felt like I could do a cartwheel when I heard that, because it's Scott Spivey. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh,
that
yeah.
case, but his case has been reopened, and
Oh,
that just came out today, and it's because of his sister being such an advocate for her brother and
never
fighting
giving
so
up.
hard. Right. They were just going to let these people get away with killing him, and now it's reopened, and I'm so thankful for that as well.
That is fantastic news.
Yeah. So
Well, I
hopefully that might.
really,
I'm
sorry,
sorry. Go.
I just really wanted to thank you for being that voice for him and not ever giving up and keeping his name out there and also keeping the community involved because they obviously truly deeply care and taking the
Yes.
time to tell his story today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for letting me tell his story. I appreciate you for reaching out, and anytime that we have an update or anything that I can tell you, I would gladly come back on and
Please,
talk about.
absolutely. And if there's anything that you need whatsoever, you just let us know.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you, dear.
Okay.